When I heard that, it literally changed my life. I still think about what he said all the time. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Business with Ness. I'm Ness, and I'm a professional illustrator. We all know that becoming a full-time artist is quite difficult. I get asked all the time how I did it because I'm not a genius. I'm not exceptional. So how did I manage to do it? For the longest time, I wasn't sure, but looking back, I think there are a few things that have been really instrumental in my success. I've been a full-time artist since 2015 now, and along the way, I've learned some lessons that have been some really big aha moments for me. These are the moments that changed my entire outlook on things. So today, I'm sharing them with you, and I hope that you'll find that as helpful as it was for me back then. But right before we get into it, if you're new here and you would like to see more videos like this, then please hit the subscribe button and that little bell. The bell sends you notifications every time that I upload a new video. This way you're sure that you won't miss any of the advice. All right, let's get started. Lesson number 1. You can accomplish anything that you can plan. This is something that I actually learned way early in my life, way before I was a professional artist, but still I can see every day just how much it has helped me achieve all of my goals. I was lucky to learn how to plan well in high school, actually. I went to an international high school that was actually part of the public system where I live, so it was free, but it was actually really great. They constantly made us plan all of our stuff ourselves and got us into the habit of being resourceful and figuring it out ourselves to get things done. For example, we had community service to do, but they didn't decide for us what we were going to do and where. They just gave us a set number of hours that we had to do during the year and then just set us loose. You can do whenever, whatever, just so long as you get it done. We had to do a graduation project and they let us decide everything about it. The topic, the format, they let us loose at a university library and let us use the time and resources however we wanted. If we wanted, we could spend the entire day sleeping at the back of the library, or we can spend the entire day researching and gathering ideas for our project. This was incredibly effective in teaching us life skills, basically. I know that usually the school system holds your hand a lot and is very restrictive. This was kind of the opposite. And this helped me so much. I actually grew up very poor, so I rarely had the same opportunities as other kids had. Yet I did have this one incredible privilege, being taught the skills to overcome my disadvantages. And those skills were planning and research, and that gave me the resourcefulness and confidence to achieve anything that I wanted to achieve, whether I had money or not. It makes me so grateful that I was taught resourcefulness, because I get questions from aspiring artists all the time that are actually basic things like, where should I apply for art jobs? Who are the picture book publishers to query? Or do you know any art agents I can apply to? Girl, I say that with love, but I'm not gonna Google that for you. And I have to say, you guys never bother me with anything. Any question that you want to ask, I'm never annoyed, I'm never bothered. But there are some questions that I'm not going to answer because I think it's more helpful for you to look it up yourself. I'm not enabling here. I know that you're able to Google that yourself. You just haven't thought of it. And life is going to get so much easier for you if you just get into the habit of doing that. Now, I recognize how lucky I was to be taught this early. However, even if you weren't, it's never too late to learn. It doesn't cost anything and it's not very difficult to learn. You just have to get into that habit, into that mindset. You can start today if you want. You just practice it and do it over and over again until it just becomes automatic for you when you have to do anything to start with researching and planning. Over my career, I've noticed, looking back, a pattern. Whenever I have a goal or something I want to achieve, I never go in blind. I start by researching. Google, YouTube, Skillshare, blogs, books. There are so many resources available now. Then I use what I learned to lay out the steps. I just write down every single thing that I'm going to need to achieve that goal. And then I write down what I need to do to acquire those things. And there I have a plan. And that gives me a much better chance of success. First of all, because it's researched. It's based on actual advice instead of going in with trial and error and wasting a lot of time. But second of all, just the fact of having a plan makes everything feel so much more doable and achievable. It's a huge confidence and motivation booster. To give you an example, if you have a big goal that seems really impossible, like climbing a mountain, the Kilimanjaro, that might seem like an unattainable daydream at first. But what if you start by planning everything that you need? Getting in shape, climbing lessons, travel tickets, arrangements to get to the mountain, equipment, money to acquire everything that I just said, lessons, tickets, and equipment, etc. You just list every single thing that you will need to achieve that goal. Then for each thing, you can lay out further steps on how you can get that done. And suddenly, it really doesn't feel that impossible anymore. You can visualize the path ahead. When I decided to go freelance, I made a plan and I was able to make a full-time living within a first year. When I decided to start my YouTube channel, I made a plan and I was able to get monetized within 6 months. And you can bet that if tomorrow I decide to self-publish my first book, the first thing I'm going to do is go to Google and research the heck out of it. I'm not going to get started without that plan because I want to succeed. So this is maybe the biggest factor of my success and the biggest lesson of my art career. You can accomplish anything that you can plan. It's not talent. It's not connections. It's not education. Because all of these things, you have the power in your hands to acquire with a good plan. It's about planning. As long as you make a solid plan and follow it through one step at a time, even if it takes you a long time, you will get there someday. So before we go to lesson number 2, I want to know, do you have a plan for what you're currently wanting to achieve? If yes, tell us the step you're on right now. And if no, tell us that too. You're not alone. It's never too late to make that plan, and I'll be happy to give you some pointers to get you started. Lesson number 2, job opportunities. This is a story from when I was in college studying 2D animation. I would often go to the school during the weekends to work there. It was open for students, but they had the equipment for animation, so I couldn't work at home. So I was often there on Saturday, and this one time there was an open door event where all the kids from high school could come in and look around to see if they would like to join the 2D animation programs. So that day, there were a lot of kids with their parents who were looking around, looking at what we were doing, looking at our drawings, talking with the teachers, asking questions. So I'm just there working on my thing, and there's this kid that comes in with his parents. And immediately you can see the mom all excited. My son is so talented. The dad was really a different story, skeptical, closed body language. He was just not feeling that at all. You can tell that he was just one of those parents that is like, art is a waste of time. My son is not going to be doing that. You see which kind of parent I mean. And so the dad looks at the teacher and tells him, are there a lot of jobs in this field? And the teacher had the best response. He just says, well, you don't need a lot of jobs. You just need one job, right? And when I heard that, it stopped me in my tracks. It literally changed my life. At that time, I was studying in college, but I was actually really nervous about my future employment opportunities. You always hear that the art market is super competitive, that it's difficult to get jobs. Even as I was pursuing my degree, I was so worried about my future, wondering, am I even going to be able to get a job once I graduate? And what I overheard that teacher say, it made me reframe the entire thing in my mind. It made me realize competition isn't the end of the world. Even if there's just one art job in the town, I need to be thinking about how am I going to be the one that's going to get the job. In the end, I got my first studio job 2 weeks after graduating. I was super lucky, but I did put in the work. The day after I graduated, I woke up in the morning and I sent like 20 emails. I sent out resumes. I started early. I was hired at a mobile game studio as a 2D animator and illustrator. And once I was there, I learned something interesting. At the time, the studio, Budge Studios, was actually expanding and they were looking to hire several artists. And it shocked me how long it took to fill those positions. It took over 8 months. Budge had trouble finding artists for those positions. And I was so confused. I was thinking, Isn't this supposed to be a saturated market, super competitive? Why are we having trouble hiring people? The studio even hired several people on a trial, and these people ended up not working out. And that's when I realized there may be a lot of people vying for the same jobs, but not a lot of those artists are actually qualified for those jobs. And it's not all about the drawing quality either. When it comes to drawing, most of us, we got that part down. But there's so much more to being a professional artist. There are technical skills, technical understanding, problem solving, teamwork. And for everyone who is freelance or self-employed, there are also business skills, marketing skills. Few artists actually have those skills. So if you work on that, you will always stand out above the competition. You don't need to worry about how many jobs there are in total. You only need to worry about how are you going to get the job. I always remember what that teacher says, and it has always served me well. Lesson number 3, going back to the basics. This last story is from after I became self-employed in 2018. I left my studio job and jumped into freelancing without a safety net. At the time, my partner was studying full-time in college, so I was the breadwinner, and I really needed to make that work stat. This really put a fire under my ass, and I threw everything at the wall to find out what would stick. I was sending queries to art director every single day, trying to get my first break. Looking back, I'm not even sure how I did everything that I was doing at the time. I certainly don't have this kind of energy anymore. It was crazy for a while, but after 8 to 10 months, I had a solid footing in the industry. I had past clients that would come back for more work. I also found an agent at that time, and although they didn't find me all of my work, they did send me at least 30% of my work, which was a big help. And I even had, for the first time, clients that were reaching out to me by themselves after they saw my work somewhere else. At one point, I had a streak of about a year and a half where I was constantly booked all the time, even though I never had to send a single query to anyone during that time. It was the best. It was going so good until it wasn't anymore. After about a year and a half, I finished another of my book projects, and then I realized I don't have anything else lined up. I started panicking, worrying about where my next gig is going to come from. And after a couple weeks, then I started feeling sorry for myself. I was throwing myself a pity party. No one wants to hire me anymore. I'm completely over. How am I going to survive? My partner was really sweet. He consoled me and let me whine for a bit. But after a few days, even he kind of had lost patience with me. He told me, look, if you want to find your next project, go out there and send some emails. It was the obvious solution, but it had been so long since I even had to send emails, I had forgotten that I could do that. So I started sending emails, and what do you know, a couple weeks later, I got my next project. So this experience taught me that an art career will always have ups and downs. No matter how successful you get, there might always be times where you have to go back in the trenches and build yourself back up again and find your next gig. I thought I was past that. I thought I was past querying, but I wasn't. You're never too good to query. It's like an actor saying that they're too good for auditions. Sure, there might be some instances where they just get the gig given to them, but it's never a given. There are always directors that are going to ask them to audition, and if they want the job, they have to audition. For us artists, no matter how long your client lists, you're never guaranteed your next gig. Sometimes you're going to have to fight for it. Being a self-employed artist, you are running your own business, and you have to treat it as such. Business is constantly changing, and things that have worked in the past aren't guaranteed to continue working forever. We always have to adapt and come up with new ideas, new strategies to try. A few years ago, I read this incredible book. It's called Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. It's the weirdest little business book. It's super short, less than 100 pages. And it's the story about mice and cheese that's this whole metaphor for business and for change. It explains what happens when we get complacent and how to deal with change. The art world is always changing. Which styles are on trend may not be on trend 10 years from now. What's in demand changes all the time. Back when physical magazines and physical journals started not being popular anymore, a lot of editorial illustrators lost their jobs, and many of them gave up on their art career at all because they were unable to adapt, while others figured out other ways to get work. For example, by going for online magazines and blogs. I've seen this all the time in my own career, and now that I'm an online coach, I've seen this happen also in my online course sales. I spent years and years building this huge, super complete program, the Art Business Bootcamps, that teach how to become a freelance illustrator from beginning to end. It was very successful at first, and then suddenly last summer, people just stopped buying it. And after asking a lot of questions, talking with my audience, come to find out, the economy has been crap for a while now. Inflation is super high, and people can't afford that huge program anymore. In order to keep helping artists, I had to pivot. And so I changed course and started making smaller online classes that were more affordable. And I've been thinking a lot about how to revamp the Art Business Bootcamp so I can make it accessible again. And I had this idea, since it's such a huge program, to split it into a 12-month program that would be paid in 12-month installments. That would make it a lot easier to absorb the expense, but also to absorb the information, because it's, like I said, a huge program, and many of my students have told me how they kind of feel overwhelmed in the bootcamp. So I'm working on this right now, and I'm really excited to reopen the bootcamp as this 12-month program next fall. But basically, bottom line, the lesson was sometimes you have to go back to the drawing board. Start sending queries again, pivot your strategy, or even tweak your art a little bit if it's not working anymore for the market. In this career, we are always kept on our toes, and we have to stay flexible. So those were the 3 biggest lessons that I learned in my art career. I hope that this will be helpful in your career as well. And if you had a big aha moment of your own while watching this video, and go in the comments and let me know which one it was and how it could impact your life. I would love to know. And if you would like to get started on your career plan, I have tons of free resources that could help you get started. For instance, my free guide, 7 surprising ways to find illustration clients. Like I said, it's completely free, and I will leave the link to that in the description below. But that's it for me today. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to help our small channel grow. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.